Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Initiates of the Flame, Deluxe Edition, by Manly P. Hall. Introduction by Mitch Horowitz. Narrated by Mitch Horowitz. Publisher's Note: this audiobook includes bonus material. Please visit Tantor.com and type The Initiates of the Flame into the search box. Follow the link to the book's page, then, under the Supplemental Content section, please enter the access code FLAME, and then click the Unlock button to access the bonus material. The code should be entered in all lowercase letters. All figures, images, and illustrations referenced in this audiobook can be found in the bonus material. He who lives the life shall know the doctrine. Preface. You can see it already in his first publication in 1922, Manly P. Hall's passion for the flame. It is a passion tempered by reading and research that is both broad and deep, and it transcends narrow sectarianism and dogma to reach for the true flame, which is that great fire which is the Spirit of God. In fact, as the subtitle indicates, doctrine and dogma are after the fact and not in the moment, cold statements rather than burning flames, descriptive only to those who have passed through the flame. He who lives the life shall know the doctrine. You live, then know, not the other way around. Like the Tao or the sublime, the doctrine of the flame is larger than life, but not separate from it. Mr. Hall's first work contains both grief and glory as he mourns the loss of the flame in the world's great cultures where it once burned brightly. As we think of the nations that are past, of Greece and Rome and the grandeur that was Egypt's, we sigh as we recall the story of their fall, and we watch the nations of today, not knowing which will be the next to draw its shroud around itself and join that great ghostly file of peoples that are dead. And as he celebrates those who have gloriously kept the flame alive, few realize that even at the present age of civilization in this world, there are souls who, like the priests of the ancient temples, walk the earth and watch and guard the sacred fires that burn upon the altar of humanity. Purified ones they are, who have renounced the life of this sphere in order to guard and protect the flame, that spiritual principle in man now hidden beneath the ruins of his fallen temple. Should we happen to see it in this early work, we can forgive Manly Hall any fulsomeness for the flame, any doggedness about the need for tending it, and any anthemic declamations as he traces it through the ages and across cultures. He was, after all, only 21. By the time he was 27, Manly Palmer Hall of Ontario, Canada, and Los Angeles, California, by way of Wall Street, would produce the world's greatest esoteric text, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, and we can, of course, see the outlines of it here in his pursuit of the flame. Initiates, however, stands on its own as a century-old beacon that lights a way that is both simple and difficult. Simple because truth is not abstract, but embodied in life itself. Difficult because our way to it is cluttered with spectacle and ruins. So many of our meaning-making institutions, governments, religions, schools, etc., sell themselves short by investing in symbols rather than the symbolized. Like the old Buddhist parable in the Lankavatara Sutra about a teacher's finger pointing at the moon and his students focusing only on the finger instead of the moon, institutions by their nature focus on the maintaining of static creeds, doctrines, symbols, and truths, rather than tending the dynamic flame to which all these elements point. By 21, Manly P. Hall had seen the moon, and Initiates is his first attempt at pointing to it. His pointing is not limited to words. Rather, the multimedia nature of the work reflects Manly Hall's appreciation of art as its own path and as one that supplements and even supersedes words. I do not know how many academic books published in 1922 included images, but I am sure some did. I doubt, however, that many used images that enhanced the text as much as Initiates did, and even fewer of those would have images drawn by the author. A century later, here we are in a world mediated by images like never before, and Initiates seems prescient in form as well as content. Manly Hall's line drawings have the elegance of minimalism with an esoteric depth that he elucidates throughout the text. 21st century readers will be delighted by the simple synergy between these two forms in this work. Finally, the Philosophical Research Society is proud to have lecturer-in-residence Mitch Horowitz edit this new edition of Manly Hall's work. Mitch is intimately familiar with Mr. Hall's oeuvre, and he curates it with both the respect that Mr. Hall deserves and the historical contextualization that Mr. Hall would have admired. The Philosophical Research Society is honored to partner with Mitch and St. Martin's Press to present a seminal work for its time and ours, and in offering it to you, dear reader, we honor your own search for the flame. Greg Sawyer, Ph.D., President, CEO, Philosophical Research Society, December 31st, 2020. Introduction. The Initiates of the Flame is not only Manly P. Hall's literary debut, but it is also a framing of the teacher's philosophical approach to life, set down at an early, intellectually powerful, and even gestational phase, yet consistently held to throughout his career. Within Symbol, the budding sage wrote, "You discover not only an image of yourself, but the continuum between your psyche and the cosmos. As above, so below, as the Hermetic dictum goes." Published in 1922, when Hall was just 21 years old, The Initiates of the Flame was, effectively, the teacher's earliest public statement, appearing 6 years before The Secret Teachings of All Ages, and it heralded the arrival of the preeminent voice of esoteric inquiry of the new century. The young scholar was a curator as much as a philosopher, and maybe more so. He brilliantly imbibed esoteric tradition, often Western, but sometimes Eastern, and reinterpreted it for modern readers and for himself. The Initiates of the Flame is a codex of symbolism, ethics, eternal needs, and the search for truth. The period in which Hall wrote this book resembled our own. The United States, the Canadian-born youth's adopted home, had just emerged from a worldwide pandemic experienced in 1918 at the grinding end to World War I. Economically, politically, and culturally, the world was marked by uncertainty, decline of old empires, mass migration, and rising nationalism. The last of those factors raged on despite the horrific events wrought by nationalism in the just-ended war, and nationalist passions, on an unprecedented scale, would soon engulf the world again. Intermixed with all this was a sense of individual possibility and of a future that could appear exciting, unsettled, and wide open. Into this world, Manly P. Hall hoped to reintroduce symbolical philosophy, and specifically the ideal that our lives could be understood as mirroring a cosmic order that extends to the ultimate source of creation, to which the individual could, in initiatory phases, grow ever closer. Within humanity's ancient symbols, such as the all-seeing eye, the crucifix, the flame of wisdom, the sword and the stone, the grail of knowledge, the pyramid, Hall detected the code of eternal life and its response to the private needs of the individual. Historically, the Initiates of the Flame has had two distinct prior lives. This edition is its third. As noted, Hall published his concise, evocative volume in 1922, 6 years before his great book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. I see Initiates as the germination of that larger effort. In Occult America, I wrote, "Like a bolt from the blue, a short work of immense power emerged from the young Manly P. Hall, a book that seemed to prefigure the greater work that would come. In 1922, Hall produced a brief luminescent gem on the mystery schools of antiquity, The Initiates of the Flame. With ease and gracefulness, Hall wrote across a spectrum of subjects describing Egyptian rites, Arthurian myths, and the practices of alchemy, revealing the psychological underpinnings of arcane methods. Man has been an alchemist from the time when he first raised himself, Hall wrote. Experiences are the chemicals of life with which the philosopher experiments." Hall revised his book in 1934. He shrunk down some of its earlier line drawings and eliminated their captions, sometimes incorporating caption material into the larger text. He collaborated on the new edition with artist J. Augustus Knapp, with whom he had worked on The Secret Teachings of All Ages and several other projects, including a tarot deck. Knapp added to the book 7 dramatized full-page paintings of scenes from esoteric history, which are reproduced in this edition. This volume primarily uses the 1934 revision as its basis. Hence, the Deluxe edition, which hopefully captures the ideals of the original and the lushness of Hall and Knapp's revisitation, is the book's third incarnation. In preparing this edition, I am grateful to my colleagues at the Philosophical Research Society, Greg Sawyer and Kelly Carmina, for their collaboration and encouragement, and also to graphic artist Josh T. Romero for his critical efforts in preparing the original illustrations. It is a privilege to present this new edition of The Initiates of the Flame, but relaunching such a book also begs the question, what can we learn today from a statement of symbolical philosophy? At the very least, I hope that this book gives you an entry point of inquiry into the symbols that it analyzes. Like most of us, I build my search upon the work of people who came before me or whose efforts inspired me, including Manly P. Hall. But I do not personally seek to use their analyses or conclusions as recipes. Rather, I regard precursory works as points of embarkment for my own experiments and questions to which I alone am subject and for which I am responsible. Indeed, I believe that the lowest level of engagement with an idea is to use it to set boundaries or expectations, either for oneself or others. Spiritual and philosophical literature can be especially tempting in this regard. Many of us, myself included, eagerly imbibe books of religious, esoteric, and ethical philosophy, underlining passages, making margin notes, and attempting to live by the terms, concepts, and ideas that we encounter. Often these ideals do not survive the tests that ensue after we get up from a chair and re-enter the world of emotions, experiences, relationships, and frictions. I would not offer a specific solution to this predicament even if I had one, but I will venture a possibility, or at least a different point of engagement from the type I just described. Although it is necessary to use general historical terms and symbols to communicate with one another, some degree of generality is required for relationships, which are the root of life. It is vital that familiar references not be confused with settled truths. Self-verification is, I believe, the highest principle of the spiritual search. And for the seeker, this principle must be lived and not just recited. Hence, I invite you to use this powerful book as a source of insight, as a window, and as a launch point. But I believe that what you discover within, as with the innards of any philosophical work, must serve as a goad to your own intimate study and experience. Someone once told me, books are where stories go to die. I do not agree with that. Books are where stories or ideas provide torchlight, as this enduring work does. But if you sit under the torch and get transfixed, you do not proceed anywhere. You become a stagnant journeyer who believes that the circle of light and relative warmth of the torch are all there is, or are at least the safest place to dwell. This is not dissimilar to the predicament facing the cave dwellers in Plato's classic allegory. This book is filled with sufficient torchlight to point you on the path of your journey, a place you must ultimately venture within the solitary channels of your own psyche and efforts. Let its flame point the way. Mitch Horowitz, New York City, February 2021. Preface by Manly P. Hall. The Initiates of the Flame was my first literary effort, and it is indeed gratifying that through the years it has been out of print, a demand sufficient to justify its republication should have persisted. It is therefore again presented to the public entirely re-illustrated and with considerable editorial revision. 12 years have passed since the first publication of this little work on mystical symbolism. During this interim, I have considerably extended the scope of my researches into the subject matter of which the work treats. However, in reviewing the book today, I do not feel moved to make any change in the basic viewpoints set forth. The Initiates of the Flame is a little essay on the mystery of fire. To all ancient peoples, fire was a symbol of the divine, one dwelling in the innermost part of things. Robert Flood, a Rosicrucian mystic, writing in the 17th century, declared that the fire of the philosophers was divided into three parts. First, a visible fire, which is the source of physical light and heat. Second, an invisible or astral fire, which enlightens and warms the soul. Third, a spiritual or divine fire, which in the universe is known as God and in man as spirit. The initiates who took their oaths in the presence of the flame renounced the lesser concerns of ordinary life, and freed from the attachments of this material sphere, these purified souls became custodians of that symbolic flame of wisdom which is the true light of the world. This light is a manifestation of the one universal life, that active agent whose impulses are the cause of all sidereal phenomena. Where in antiquity this flame of light, this spirit fire, was the object of the universal adoration and was worshipped as the very presence of God himself, it now lies buried beneath the ruins of man's fallen temple. Obscured by the paramount interests of the flesh, it emits but the faintest gleam in this non-philosophic age. 1934. Introduction. Few realize that even at the present stage of this civilization in this world, there are souls who, like the priests of the ancient temples, walk the earth and watch and guard the sacred fires that burn upon the altar of humanity. Purified ones they are who have renounced the life of this sphere in order to guard and protect the flame, that spiritual principle in man, now hidden beneath the ruins of his fallen temple. The mysteries of antiquity have seemingly perished. The faith, however, of the Golden Age, the first religion of man, can never wholly die. As we think of the nations that are past, of Greece and Rome and the grandeur that was Egypt's, we sigh as we recall the story of their fall, and we watch the nations of today, not knowing which will be the next to draw its shroud around itself and join that great ghostly file of peoples that are dead. But everywhere, even in the rise and fall of nations, we see through the haze of materiality justice. Everywhere we see reward, not of man, but of the invincible one, the eternal flame. A great hand reaches out from the unseen and regulates the affairs of man. It reaches out from that great spiritual flame which nourishes all creative things, the never-dying fire that burns on the sacred altar of the cosmos, that great fire which is the Spirit of God. If we turn again to the races now dead, we shall, if we look, find the cause of their destruction. The light had gone out. When the flame within the body is withdrawn, the body is dead. When the light was taken from the altar, the temple was no longer the dwelling place of a living God. Degeneracy, lust, and passion, hates and fears crept into the souls of Greece and Rome, and black magic overshadowed Egypt. The light upon the altar grew weaker and weaker. The priests lost the word, the name of the flame. Little by little the flame flickered out, and as the last spark grew cold, a mighty nation died, buried beneath the dead ashes of its own spiritual fire. But the flame did not die. Like spirit, of which it is the essence, it cannot die because it is life, and life cannot cease to be. In some wilderness of land or sea it rested once again, and there rose a mighty nation around that flame. So history goes on through the ages. As long as the people are true to the flame, it remains, but when they cease to nourish it with their lives, it goes on to other lands and other worlds. Those who worship this flame are now called heathens. Little do we realize that we are the heathen ourselves until we are baptized of the Holy Spirit, which is fire, for fire is the light, and the children of the flame are the sons of light, even as God is light. There are those who have for ages labored with man to help him kindle within himself this spark, which is his divine birthright. It is these who by their lives of self-sacrifice and service have awakened and tended this fire, and who through ages of study have learned the mystery it contained, that we now call the initiates of the flame. For ages they have labored with mankind to help him to uncover the light within himself, and on the pages of history they have left their seal, the seal of fire. Unhonored and unsung, they have labored with humanity, and now their lives are used as fairy stories to amuse children. But the time will yet come when the world shall know the work they did and realize that our present civilization is raised upon the shoulders of the mighty demigods of the past. We stand as Faust stood, with all our lore, a fool no wiser than before, because we refuse to take the truths they gave us and the evidence of their experiences. Let us honor these sons of the flame, not by words, but by so living that their sacrifice shall not be in vain. They have shown us the way, they have led man to the gateway of the unknown, and there, in their robes of glory, passed behind the veil. Their lives were the key to their wisdom, as it must always be. They have gone, but in history they stand, milestones on the road of human progress. Let us watch these mighty ones as they pass silently by. First, Orpheus, playing upon the seven-stringed lyre of his own being, the music of the spheres. Then Hermes, the thrice greatest, with his emerald tablet of divine revelation. Through the shades of the past we dimly see Krishna, the illumined, who on the battlefield of life taught man the mysteries of his own soul. Then we see the sublime Buddha, his yellow robe not half so glorious as the heart it covered, and our own dear master, the man Jesus, his head surrounded with the halo of golden flame, and his brow serene with the calm of mastery. Then Muhammad, Zoroaster, Confucius, Odin, and Moses, and others no less worthy pass by before the eyes of the student. They were the sons of the flame. From the flame they came, and to the flame they have returned. To us they beckon, and bid us to join them, and in our robes of self-earned glory to serve the flame they love. They were without creed or clan, they served but the one great ideal. From the same place they have returned. There was no superiority there. Hand in hand they labor for humanity. Each loves the other, for the power that has made them masters has shown them the brotherhood of all life. In the book that follows, we will try to show this great thread, the spiritual thread, the thread of living fire that winds in and out through all religions and binds them together with a mutual ideal and mutual needs. In the story of the Grail and the legends of King Arthur, we find that thread wound around the table of the king and the temple of Mount Salvat. This same thread of life that passes through the roses of the Rosicrucians winds among the petals of the lotus and among the temple pillars of Luxor. There is but one religion in all the world, and that is the worship of God, the spiritual flame of the universe. Under many names he is known in all the lands, but as Ishwari or Ammon or God, he is the same, the creator of the universe, and the fire is his universal symbol. We are the flame-born sons of God, thrown out as sparks from the wheels of the infinite. Around this flame we have built forms which have hidden our light. But as students we are increasing this light by love and service until it shall again proclaim us sons of the eternal. Within us burns that flame, and before its altar the lower man must bow, a faithful servant of the higher. When he serves the flame he grows, and the light grows until he takes his place with the true initiates of the universe, those who have given all to the infinite in the name of the flame within. Let us find this flame and also serve it, realizing that it is in all created things, that all are one because all are part of that eternal flame, the fire of the Spirit, the life and power of the universe. Upon the altar of this flame, to the true creator of this book, the writer offers it and dedicates it to the one fire which blazes forth from God and is now hidden within each living thing. Forward. The greatest of mystery schools. The world is the schoolroom of God. Our being in school does not make us learn, but within that school is the opportunity for all learning. It has its grades and its classes, its sciences and its arts, and admission to it is the birthright of man. Its graduates are its teachers, its pupils are all created things. Its examples are nature, and its rules are God's laws. Those who would go into the greater colleges and universities must first, day by day and year by year, work through the common school of life and present to their new teachers the diplomas they have won, upon which is written the name that none may read save those who have received it. The hours may seem long and the teachers cruel, but each of us must walk that path, and the only ones ready to go onward are those who have passed through the gateway of experience, God's great school for man. 1. The fire upon the altar. As far back as our history goes, we find that fire has played an important part in the religious ceremonies of the human race. In practically every religion, we find the sacred altar fires, which were guarded by the priests and vestals with greater care than their own lives. In the Bible, we find many references made to the sacred fires which were used as one form of devotion by the ancient Israelites. The altar of burnt offerings is as old as the human race and dates from the time when the first man, lifting himself out of the mists of ancient Lemuria, first saw the sun, the great fire spirit of the universe. Among the followers of Zoroaster, the Persian initiate, fire has been used for centuries in honor of the great fire god Ormuzd, who is said by them to have created the universe. There are two paths or divisions of humanity whose history is closely related to that of the wisdom teachings. They embody the doctrines of fire and water, the two opposites of nature. Those who follow the path of faith or the heart use water and are known as the sons of Seth, while those who follow the path of the mind and action are the children of Cain, who was the son of Samael, the spirit of fire. Today we find the latter among the alchemists, the Hermetic philosophers, the Rosicrucians, and the Freemasons. It is well for us to understand that we ourselves are the cube altar upon which and in which burns the altar fire. For many centuries, the initiate of fire has been nourishing and guarding the spiritual flame within himself as the ancient priests watched day and night the altar fires of Vesta's temple. Know that the flame that burns within you and lights your way is the ever-burning lamp of the ancients. As their lamps were fed by the purest of oil, so your spiritual flame must be fed by a life of purity and altruism. The ever-burning lamp of the alchemist, which having burned thousands of years without fuel in the catacombs of Rome, is but a symbol of this same spiritual fire within himself. In the illustration, we see the ever-burning lamp which was carried by the initiate in his wandering. It represents the spinal column of man, at the top of which is flickering a little blue and red flame. As the lamp of the ancients was fed and kept burning by the purest of olive oil, so man is transmitting within himself and cleansing in the laver of purification the life essences, which, when turned upward, provide fuel for the ever-burning lamp within himself. Upon the altars of the ancients were offered sacrifices to their gods. The ancient Hierophant offered up sacrifices of spices and incense. The Masonic brother of today still has among his symbols the incense burner or censer, but few of the brothers recognize themselves in this symbol. The ancients symbolized under such things as this the development of the individual, and as the tiny spark burning among the incense cubes slowly consumes all, so the spiritual flame within the student is slowly burning away and transmuting the base metals and properties within himself, and offering up the essence thereof as the smoke upon the altar of divinity. It is said that King Solomon, when he completed his temple, offered bulls.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?